Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first edition of the year of People's Empowerment, the People's Advocate, where we would strive to change the conditions in our city. Now, today's show is going to be a very excellent show. We have a special guest here. We were supposed to have two special guests, but unfortunately, one couldn't make it. Today's show is the Ask the Judges show, where we're going to ask the judges different questions about criminal, civil court, dealing with such matters as the legal arena, and things of the sort. Now, today we have as our guest City Court Judge, Judge Hanna. And Mr. Hanna is certainly going to enlighten us on quite a few things today. So without any further ado, let me shake your hand, sir. Mr. Hanna, nice to have you on the show.
Thanks
How are
for
you?
having me here today. Happy New Year as well.
Absolutely. Happy New Year to you, sir. Mr. Hanna, should I say Mr. Hanna, Judge Hanna,
Whatever you
sir?
feel more comfortable.
Okay.
Don't say sir, because I think my father's in the room.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good, Mr. Hanna. Okay. All right. I want to start off and just in the beginning get a little background on you, sir. So if you could look into the camera and you could really tell the public, you could tell the public about yourself.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Buffalo. Grew up on the east side of Buffalo. Went to school 59, then to City Honors High School, Canisius College, University of Buffalo Law School. But the main thing I want to tell about myself is that, and I always tell this when I go speak to students in school, that I wasn't the best student in school. I was one of those kids that was bright, so I used to act up in class. Things came to me
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, we used to call it ribbon. I don't know if you guys call it now, but it was always a teacher ready to kick me out of the classroom. And I say that because I want the people to know that it wasn't like I was anointed or was born into this position. I grew into this 15, 20 years ago. I never thought I would be a judge. And it's a tremendous opportunity, and it's only because good people like yourselves and others have helped me in my life. The Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, so does men sharpen men. And if you surround yourself around good people, you can glean knowledge, wisdom, and understanding from them. And that's why I'm here today, because I surrounded myself around good individuals. And even when I wasn't the best student or best person in life, I had good role models around me. I had my gym teachers, I had block club leaders. I even had some of the hustlers when I grew up with said that you're a smart kid. This isn't something you should be doing. You need to stick with those books because you're going to go far. And one of the most rewarding experiences I had, and I won't use the person's name, but when I got elected as city court judge, I took a collect call from jail. And from the young people out there, do not take a collect call from jail. Your parents will kill you. I took a collect call from jail, and this young man called me and said I made him proud because we from the same block, and he knew I was going to make it, and he was happy that I made it. And I said, you don't know how much it warmed my heart that he's sharing in my joys, too, because he said he knew I was a smart kid, and he knew if I stayed in school, I was going to make something out of myself. And that's what we got to do. We got to let other kids know that you can come from a poor but proud family. You don't have to have a silver spoon in your mouth. I mean, you can grow up on welfare, grow up in an underprivileged household. As long as you got love in your household, you can do anything in life.
Well, was your household underprivileged?
My mother says it wasn't. She's a hard-working saint. But I wore buddies, man.
You wore buddies
I wore
too?
buddies. I had the government cheese. I don't even eat cheese anymore. I had so much cheese when I was a kid.
For y'all, for those of you out there that don't know what buddies are, those are the old All Stars, I believe, right? Those the old
No,
All
the
Stars.
ones
they
I
didn't even
had,
say All Stars, did they?
mine came from Tops. The ones you get from the grocery store with the gum bottoms.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
And I say that because you don't need to have a lot. All you need is desire. And if you got the right people around you, and it all starts in the household. Because my mother always stayed on us about, you got to stay in the books. You got to stay in the books. And it's going to take you far in life. And my father passed away when I was a teenager, so it was hard for her to raise boys on her own because I have 4 brothers and a sister. And I think she did a good job because her main thing was no matter what you do, go to school, it's going to make your life easier.
Are you the oldest?
Well, I'm the youngest.
You're the baby of the bunch.
I'm the baby of the bunch.
So they really pushed you to excel, hey?
Well, yes. Well, I had a lot of examples. I had my
Weren't you spoiled?
No, the baby's never spoiled. The baby gets it the worst. You know that.
I don't know.
Because the
Judge.
siblings think you're spoiled when you're really not.
Ah.
Yeah.
So now, how old are you, if you don't mind us asking? Can you say?
Yeah, I'm 36 years old.
You're 36 years old.
Yes.
And you're a city court judge?
Yes.
Sitting city court judge?
Yes.
36 years old?
Yes.
Second year?
Second year.
That's very impressive.
Ain't God great?
You are a young man.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get through school? I want to know a little bit about the process for the people out there that are interested in becoming lawyers that are poor, disenfranchised. Maybe you could tell us about the schooling, the process, how long it takes.
Okay. Well, undergrad, first you have to have an undergraduate degree from an accredited program, which is 4 years.
Okay.
And as I was joking before, like it seemed like you were in school forever. And then after that, you have to go to an accredited law school, which is another 3 years. And then after law school, you have to pass the bar exam, which is another year. So my friends and family thought I was a so-called career student. But it takes about 8 years of higher education to become an attorney.
Now, is there any way to accelerate that process, or is that the bottom line?
Well, the only way you can take extra classes. Instead of taking 15 credit hours a semester, you can take 18 or 20 and try to graduate early.
Try to knock off maybe a year. Huh?
Yes, because I actually graduated a half a semester early, half a year early, semester early, because I did a study abroad in Africa between my my first and second year in law school, and then all the credits apply towards your graduate degree.
Oh, that was awesome. How was it in Africa?
It was awesome. It was one of the most rewarding experiences I had in my life because it showed you. It showed you that without barriers placed in front of you, how far you can grow as a person. Because in Africa, you don't see all the police officers are black. You know, all the school teachers are black. The president's black. Everybody around you is an African, right? And you see how our life or how society is when people don't place those roadblocks in front of you, and you have the encouragement that you can accomplish and do anything you put your mind to. And it's up to us, and it's incumbent upon us to make sure we tell our young people that they can do anything they put their mind to, because we have to lift as we climb.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but in a lot of people's mind, just being black, being born black, is an automatic obstacle block in their future. So how did you overcome that part of it?
Well, I had to tell you, for a while, and people used to say I used to have a chip on my shoulder, thinking that, that you're black, that people always discriminate against you. But we got to go back to what our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers and Nana used to tell us, that when you're black, you got 2 strikes against you. Don't give them that 3rd strike.
Don't give them that
Which
third
means
strike.
you got to work twice as hard as that person sitting next to you. And we forgot about that. I remember growing up having that constantly instilled against me. Yes, they're going to think you're second best. Yes, they're going to think you're only here because of a set-aside program. But remember, now you're in the door. And when you get in the door, do something with it. And don't embarrass your family, don't embarrass your community, and don't embarrass yourself. So my job is, once they give you the opportunity, is you take the ball and you run with it and you do the best that you can.
So when you were actually in school, and even though you had those proverbial 2 strikes against you, it was the way you speak, it sounds like it was your motivation to excel, to strive,
Oh,
to
definitely.
win against the odds. Is that what we're hearing?
Oh, definitely, because I look at life, and I don't want to use too many analogies, but it's like a card game. You play the hand that you're dealt. If you're a minority, and in minorities, if you can get a scholarship because you're a minority, or because you don't come from a wealthy family, you can get into the HELP program, a program that could pay for your undergraduate and graduate education. You take advantage of it, because they would do the same thing if they could take advantage of it. So our job is to find out what's out there for us. You find out what's out there, you take advantage of it, and you do something with it. And before we move on, I have to, every time I speak about the HELP program, which is a program that provides financial assistance to underprivileged people.
The ATLP?
HELP.
HELP.
Yes, and I have to thank Deputy Speaker, or former Deputy Speaker Arthur O'Eve, because he brought this program or these resources to this area. And a lot of us, people in our generation, have benefited from it, from going to colleges and universities in this area.
Wow. Have you ever went back and thanked Mr. Eve?
I thank him every time I see him.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
To
incredible.
the point that I think he's tired of me thanking.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Because I want him to know how genuine I am about it. If there's ever a group I'm around, I always acknowledge that, because I think it's glossed over that he fought to have these resources placed for like younger people can go to college. And myself, I believe all my peers, Brian Davis, Antoine Thompson, Damone Smith, we all took advantage of it, you know. And it's the reason why we're in the positions that we are today is because people like Mr. Eve, like the Bill Gators, like the Margaret Strassners, they worked hard for us to be able to get the opportunities that we have at such an early age.
Certainly, certainly, certainly. So, early age. So, let me understand this now. Just to go back for a minute. You're 35 years old,
36.
36 years old.
Yes.
You went to college for 7.5, 8 years.
Yes.
You've been on the bench now. This is your second year.
Yes.
So, let's see. You graduated at 23 years old?
24.
24 years old.
You're pretty good at math.
Lawyer. Well, I do have an associate's degree in accounting. You know, anyway, wow, 24 years old, and you were officially a lawyer.
Yes.
Okay. Now, once you were a lawyer, you were a lawyer for 1 year, and then you got appointed to the judgeship. I'm trying to figure out how that happened. If you
Oh, no. I was a lawyer for practically 10 years
Oh,
before
oh,
I got
oh.
appointed to be a judge.
Oh yeah. What am I thinking about?
Yes.
34. I'm sorry. I'm off the track. Okay. You were a lawyer for 10 years.
Yes.
And I think you were. I remember you being. Were you a self-defense lawyer? I mean, not a self-defense lawyer, but a defense
Yes.
defense attorney.
Well, my most recent job before I took the bench was a defense attorney.
Okay.
But I started off in the Erie County District Attorney's Office, which is a great place to start because you help administer justice there. Then I went to the Corporation Counsel's Office where we represented city unions, police department, fire department, Board of Education. And after that, I took a job with the state senate in part-time, and then I also had a part-time law practice as well.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then, so who appointed you as judge?
Mayor Byron Brown.
Mayor Byron Brown.
Yes, who lifts as he climbs.
My favorite mayor, Byron Brown. Anyway, yes, he does. He's a special gentleman. He certainly is.
Hard-working gentleman, and I have to applaud him for all the accomplishments that he's doing in his first year in office. Because it's a tough job trying to run a city.
I have to applaud him too because let me tell you, he is very motivational. As a matter of fact, I'm one of the guys that 3 years ago, back about 3 years ago, I used to look upon him and a couple of my friends, and we used to look upon him as, to be honest, one of them. We, nobody had a favorable opinion of Mayor Byron Brown because we thought that he was different than the rest of us, and he made it clear that he was different, and so it kind of stigmatized him. But in retrospect, especially now, that I look at him and what he's accomplished, I see that it wasn't that at all. He was just trying to have integrity, to upgrade our society and our people as far as the way we present ourselves,
Right.
and the people we deal with, and plus his communication, as far as communication with all different parts of the city, different nationalities, communicating with everyone. So now I can really see in retrospect that he all the time was always down for his people, which are really all people. He's not even I'm down for my black people, I'm down for whatever. He's down for the citizens of Buffalo, and so that's a beautiful
And you got to
thing.
applaud him for that because we can't sell ourselves short as being African Americans. A lot of people think, and I know we were touching on this earlier, that you talk white or you dress white, we got to make sure that we held to the same standards that we hold other people to. So let's say in a business setting, you and I are going to talk like this. But in a social setting, you and I are going to relax. We're going to sit back and kick it.
That's
But
true.
people got to realize there's a time and place for everything. And this is a good thing to talk about. Like even when people come to court, you got to realize it's a time and place to act professional, and there's a time and place that you can actually relax and have fun with your friends. When you come to court, I think that's the time for you to be there, to act professional, look professional, try to dress the best as you can because you're trying to give off a good image of yourself.
You touched on that topic before I could even get to it, but so now let's just get right on it. As far as the decorum, your dress when you come to court, because it's one of the questions that I have a list of questions that different people have asked me to pose to the judges, and one of the questions was, how do you, as a judge, like to see people dressed when they come into your courtroom?
Okay. And I would say as neat and as well groomed as possible. Everyone can't afford a nice suit like you have on, I buy mine off the rack, but yours look tailor-made. So
It's
what?
not, sir.
But what I'm saying is that you dress let's say our grandmother's saying your Sunday best, what you believe is something nice. As long as you're neat, you're manable, you're clean, preferably have a tie on. But if you don't have a suit, please try to wear a collared shirt because you want to look professional. Like one of the best things I see is when I can't tell the client, and I say client, not criminal or defendant. I can't tell the client from the lawyer because that means this person is taking this serious because it's important to him, and he came dressed, or he or she came, and they were dressed as most professional as they can.
Now, listen. If I could have that number one camera, listen. It's important for the public out there, especially for young men, and that's all citizens of Buffalo. It's very important to listen to the judge. He said, when you come to court, be dressed as decent as you can. Make a good impression. If you have a tie, put it on. It's very important, your demeanor when you come to court. Now, Your Honor, what don't you like to see when a person comes into your courtroom through those doors? Not out of the back, out of the bullpen, okay, because they can't affect what they're wearing.
Right.
But when they come through those doors, what do you like to see them? I mean, what don't you like to see?
Well, I don't want to see their pants hanging down, and I don't want to see any flesh, because this is a courtroom. It's not a nightclub. This is not where you wear the clothes that you go clubbing in. This is a place that you go like if you're going to a job interview. This should be one of the most important days of your life.
Could you tell him again, Judge? Could you tell him again?
This should be one of the most important days of your life, and that's the way I would look at it, I would come dressed for people to respect or actually hear what I'm saying, because I look at every court case when people comes there, and it may seem kind of minor and trivial to us, but I think it's very important to everyone that comes in there because most people don't go to court often. So if they come in there with that same respect and that same decorum for what's going on there, I think everyone will get a favorable outcome. But when you come in there, let's say some people come with their hair not combed or they come with their pants hanging down, it doesn't show that they seem that this case is important to them. And remember, it's the first impression that you make. At a bench trial with a person like myself who grew up in the community, I'm not going to let that, affect me. Because I know some people just dress that way. It doesn't mean that they're good or bad. That's just the way they dress. They're just comfortable. But at a jury trial, do you want a jury to believe that that's the first impression that you leave with them? That you don't think this case is important to you? That you didn't wear the best clothes that you have? Well,
that you didn't comb your hair?
Yes.
That you didn't?
Mm-hmm. So you got to remember, like when you're going in front of someone that never seen you before, you always want to leave a good first impression.
Okay.
'Cause it's...
Now, I don't want to say you per se, but just in general. So in general, if I come, myself per se, if I was to come into court with my pants hanging down, no belt on, my hair half combed, the hair I have left half combed, I understand you're not going to be happy with it, but in general, will it have a negative effect? Will it score points against me? That's the question I'm asking.
I would say it wouldn't, because I just know the judges that I work with are a fine group of jurists, and they're not going to let something like that prejudice their opinion or their decision making.
That's what you believe?
Yes. But I'm saying when you go in front of a jury, and a lot of cases do go in front of a jury, and I think a lot of times people may take it a little more serious when it's a jury trial, but never minimize the effect when you go to city court, county court, or Supreme Court, because it's still court. And you should go in there like your life depends on this and make the best impression you possibly can. And I'm sitting here, and I truly believe that they wouldn't be there unless they realize you can't make first impressions. Because as a judge, it's your job to believe that everyone's innocent until proven guilty. And until the prosecutor proves their case, this man is innocent in the law's eyes.
And so you believe that a person is innocent until proven guilty?
Yes, everyone. That's my charge, is that when someone appears in front of me, and that's because men and women much wiser than us, when they formed this country, they believe that the principle is that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And we gotta be upholding to that principle. And what you do is that you have no preconceived notion about the individual that's in front of you. So whether or not his pants are hanging or whether or not he has a suit on, he's an individual. And I never let anyone in my court call someone a criminal.
Oh,
He's
really?
not a criminal. She's not a criminal. They're a defendant.
So
At best, I like to refer to him as his client, because you want to let them know until the DA proves the case, this person is innocent in the law's eyes.
Okay. Now, as far as the levels of the system of adjudication goes, are you, is a judge the highest level?
By
Uh, uh, you have lawyers,
yes.
and then you have the judges. Now, I'm assuming that the judge is in the position of a referee.
Yes, and that's a very good analogy. If you look at it, the judge is supposed to make sure the law is followed and make sure that there's decorum and professionalism at all times in the
What does
courtroom.
decorum mean for the people that don't know?
Decorum means that how you and I are speaking, that we're speaking in a respectful tone, it's orderly, no one's talking over each other, no one's disrespecting any other views or interests. It's got to be a nice, even-keeled order in the courtroom. And if not, then that's my fault because you can't put it on the clients. Remember, the defendant, his life is at stake or his liberty is at stake, whether or not he's going to go to jail or not. The defendant, the defense attorney, is advocating aggressively for his client, and the prosecutor is trying to prove his case aggressively.
Okay.
So it's my job to make sure that everyone's rights are protected, and particularly the defendant, because he's the one that's going to get his liberty taken from him, and to make sure that everything is happening above board. So a referee is the best analysis. You want people to be professional, and you want to make sure you hold them to that professionalism, but you don't want to interfere. Because if you see Michael Jordan, or let's use Dwayne Wade playing against Kobe, you don't see the ref coming on the court telling Kobe, "Give me the ball." You know.
But isn't there a thin line between not interfering and making sure the process runs smoothly?
Like in basketball, we use that analogy. When something goes wrong, call a foul, right? And when a foul happens, there's a break in the action. So let's say if there's a jury around, you wait till there's a break in the action, and that's when you instruct. And I believe it's part of the judge's job to instruct lawyers that may not know as much as you do. But a lot of lawyers know a lot more than the judges. I'm not going to defame them. But maybe someone that doesn't know much of the decorum of the law, it's your time to ask them what's going on, you know. It's your time to see what's going on. You never want to try to embarrass someone in front of the jury. So you'd use that timeout, that sidebar, to see why these two lawyers are being disagreeable, why this case isn't proceeding the way you think it should. And you listen to them. And my job is to listen, but also is to tell them that this is how this case is going to run smoothly because I'm going to make sure no one's rights get infringed on in this courtroom.
So are you the? Oh, okay, right. I'm glad you got on that point. Rights. What right exactly are we talking about when you say a person's right, due process? Is that what it is?
Yes.
A person's right to due process when you're in the courtroom setting, right?
Yes.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, to break it down, due process, a better way of saying it, everyone's a right to confront their accusers and to know why they're being accused and what they're being accused of. And that's basically what due process is. Let's break it down to let's say if hypothetically I'm in high school and a teacher wants to suspend me. I have to have my due process, which means they're going to bring me in front of a hearing or an arbiter or a judge or administrative officer, and they're going to tell me what happened. And then the due process is after they tell me what I'm accused of doing, you have a right to present evidence on your own defense. And that happens all the way from small hearings to traffic court to small claims to housing, all the way up to Supreme Court. And the Constitution guarantees you that right to confront your accusers and also to put evidence in to defend yourself.
The Constitution, United States Constitution,
Yes.
it gives you that right to due process.
Yes, and it's also applicable to the states as well. And the beauty of it is that if you well, it's not hard for us to recall, but if you remember, there's a saying that let's say if you got arrested in Canada, you got to stay there till the Queen comes back. You know, till the King comes back.
I've heard that.
Yes. In our country, our forefathers and foremothers, they thought that everyone had a right to know immediately what was wrong or what they're being accused of. So now we're guaranteed with the right immediately, if it's a criminal case, to have an arraignment within 48 hours for you to know why you were arrested, what you're charged with, being provided with a copy of same, for you can know how to defend yourself.
That's very important information that you just disseminated. So if you could give me his camera, could you tell him again about that 48 hours? If you could
Yes.
explain that to the public.
Yes. In our country, or in New York State in particular, after you've been arrested, you have a right to be brought in front of a magistrate within 48 hours. And when you're brought in front of that magistrate, it could be a town judge, city court judge, and they're going to tell you exactly what you're charged with. And you get a right to have counsel present. They'll adjourn the case. You can get counsel there. If you can't afford an attorney, one could be appointed for you if you qualify for it. And all those rights are given to you at the arraignment process.
Now that's the law. That's not just you saying what Judge Hanna's law is.
Oh, that's the law in
That's
New York
the
State.
law.
And
In New
every
York
time you arraign someone, you tell them of that. They have a right to counsel. You know, anything they could say could be used against them. You also tell them if they need an attorney, they will adjourn these proceedings immediately so they can bring an attorney. If they can't afford one, one could be appointed for them. And the beauty of it is it lets you know that you don't have to sit indefinitely until you find out what you've been charged with. And then once you tell what you're charged with, now you know better how to proceed in these cases.
I see. Okay, now I'm going to ask you one more question because I know that time is almost running out for this show, but this is going to be a two-part show. We are going to be coming back in, but I got to ask you one quick more question before we cut this off. A person asked me to ask you this question. Isn't being a judge like being a god?
You know what, that is a good question because I always was taught, because I grew up in a Bible-based household, that the only person that's supposed to pass judgment on anyone is the Lord. So I believe that being a judge, because you're sharing in that, you have to really temper justice with mercy, because we don't have the wisdom of Solomon, and none of us have the patience of Job. But they say to stand in judgment, you're supposed to possess both. So what I try to do, is to be very compassionate, to listen, and then there's also something in the Bible, I believe it's Micah 6:8. It says all the Lord really required for us is to be fair, just, and merciful, and to walk humbly with God at your side. And if you apply that to the law, that's what everyone wants you to do. They just want you to be fair and just. No one's asking you to cut any corners for them. No one's asking you to give them a break, which we're not going to do. They just want to know that when they're in your courtroom, that you're going to be fair, you're going to be just, and if mercy is required, you're going to be merciful.
Okay, fair and just. That's a great note to close on, fair and just, because that's what we're here. And what we're trying to do here is enlighten you, the public, on court etiquette, court procedure, court demeanor, and hopefully not being afraid of the judge. At least Judge Hanna says we don't have to be afraid of him, at least not when we first get there. It's after he hears the case that there's going to be a problem. So, you know. Anyway, this is the People's Empowerment. This is Nate Boyd from the People's Empowerment. Stay tuned for the second half of this program next week. And always remember, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention.